Hey cutie pies, it is Lanikia and I am coming to you with another episode of A Million Little Things. This is season 4, episode 13 called Fresh Start. Don't forget that if you are looking to work from home, please check out my work from home videos on the channel. All right, getting into this episode, how would I rate this episode of Million Little Things? 1 to 10, I'd probably give it like 6 maybe. I don't know. A Million Little Things, it's not the same as when the first season came out and every episode was like this mystery you were trying to figure out. Even the next season, it's like they went away from the writing, and I'll explain as I go through this recap slash review. So we see Danny talks to D on the phone. Now, first of all, Danny you just hopped yourself on a plane and came over here, didn't even tell your mother anything. And I'm like, how was he able to do this? I guess, are the travel restrictions much easier? Because I thought he was like 16 or whatever. But anyways, so he's on the phone talking to Dee, and she's fussing, of course, because she is upset that he's there and she's telling him to come home. Now Gary and Maggie are sitting there at breakfast, and Gary in front of Danny is very supportive, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe your mom's being like that. But then behind Danny's back, he was like, yeah, Dee's gonna tell him to go home, and like he needs to go home, because even though Gary wanted to see him, he was like, he can't be that disrespectful just picking up and going. But anyways, Danny gets off the phone and he says, oh, my mom allowed me to stay for spring break or whatever. I'm like, okay, you weren't gonna talk to any adult about that, see if it was okay, and if they had nothing else going. I mean, I understand that the actress who played Delilah didn't want to do this anymore, because I think that's what I read. But dang, fill her spot or take her off, because right now she's looking real selfish. That you just hop up and you go to Paris, taking the baby, the children away. You left Sophia, and now you can't even be bothered to take care of Danny or even speak to an adult and talk about it or whatever. She's looking real negligent and selfish and like a bad mom, to be quite honest with you. So anyways, from there, I'm just going to wrap this up. I was going to do it piece by piece, but I'm just going to wrap this up. So from there, we see that Danny he wants to get Milo back. So he tries his best to get Milo back. So, he's like, let's go over there. And Gary is just like, no, like he doesn't deserve to be back with you or whatever. So how about what you do is get, well, at first he told him, let's just watch some movies, eat some food and everything, and, enjoy your spring break. But Danny's not going to be able to do that. He's heartbroken. So instead, Gary says, well, okay, well, what about if we got you all dressed up and you get your revenge by going over there to speak to Milo and dumping him, looking all good and everything? And he was like, okay, I like that. So Gary was like, okay, let's do that. So helps him get ready or whatever. And so the next scene that we see with them is Gary coming in, and Danny is on the couch. But you could clearly tell somebody was there with him, because he was on the couch and Gary was like, how was how was it? Are you okay? And Milo pops up and I said, what? Milo pops up and I'm like, clearly they were doing something on this couch. Like, what? There are no ramifications. These kids are running amok and nobody is doing anything about it. But anyways, so the kids are, so then, Gary is a little bit shocked. He was like, what happened? I thought you was going to break up with him. So Gary and Milo goes to the bathroom, because Gary went and got them breakfast and everything. And Milo is allergic to the dog. So he goes to the bathroom. And so while he's in the bathroom, Gary and Danny talking, he was like, Danny, I thought you were going to break up with him. What happened to our plan? And Danny was just like, I chose to forgive him. He needs forgiveness, and I want to be with him. So, he chose to forgive him. Listen, we've all been there forgiving somebody that we shouldn't have forgave. But Danny gets a pass on this because he's young. Some of us are too old to be doing that. But anyways, so Gary just pretty much says, he doesn't deserve you. He's a jerk. Like, you should dump him or whatever. And Milo comes out the bathroom all abruptly and says, I gotta go or whatever. So he goes out the door. So Danny is constantly trying to text Milo later on to figure out what went wrong. And he finds out that Milo heard what Gary had to say about him. So then Danny starts going off on Gary. And I'm like, Dee, come get your children. They're so spoiled and brats. Like Danny, I was liking Danny, but he done got on my nerves on this episode, and he just pretty much tells Gary, mm, I'm the only gay guy here besides Milo, and then in France, I don't know any other ones. And so, yes, I want to forgive Milo. I want to make this work. To me, it sounds like settling, but okay. He says, I want to make this work. And you should know about forgiveness and all that. And I'm like, somebody needs to get these children together, because Danny went left on Gary, and then he was like, Sophia was right and all that. And I'm like, get out of France and Paris and come get your kids. And so later on, Gary goes over to talk to Danny, and he tells Danny that, I, I'm sorry I hurt you. I should have listened to you earlier. How can I help you? And Danny is just like, my mom, he wished he had never moved to Paris. He said, I was doing it trying to be a good son to my mom, but she hopped up and went to Paris and is living her best life. She happy and stuff while her kids are suffering. And truth be told, that's exactly what it is. But anyways, so he's like, I like Milo. I want to be with him. I want to forgive him, but I don't want to. He said being with Milo would mean that I know you don't like him, so it would be like choosing between. I don't want to choose. And Gary was like, you don't ever have to choose with me, because I'm gonna always be here and I love you. And I was like, yeah, it sounds like he wasn't gonna choose you anyways. So you better say that. But anyway, so he went on over there to Milo, and they made up, and they're at the movies and all that good stuff. So Maggie, while all this is going on, Maggie goes to work, right? And Jane, her boss, gives her a card because she said it's from Mr. Kohler. And Maggie was like, oh my gosh. And she was like, yeah, your numbers are so good. Like, you have the best numbers. Your ratings are through the roof and everything. So he rewarded her with the car. So Maggie goes in, and she's doing her job on the radio and all that kind of good stuff. And this woman calls in, and she says she's a young woman who has two small children. She's a single mom. She works during the day. She goes to school at night. Thank God she has her family, because they help her take care of the kids. But this girl got pregnant again. So, not judging, but I'm like, girl. She was like, she was doing great for herself, and she went and got pregnant again. And she's like, I can't do it. This will mess up everything, like the future I'm trying to give them with the nursing school and everything. So she's going to have an abortion, which, listen, do what you want to with your body. I'm not going to judge you. That's between you and whatever you want to do. So she said she's going to have an abortion and everything, and Maggie gives her resources. Now, I do agree with that. Like, if they're going to do it, please give them some resources so they can do it the healthy way, and we won't have it like back in the day when women were dying, having going to shady doctors for abortions. And if it and she says her parents are very religious and everything. So you need to go to Planned Parenthood and get yourself on some birth control. I mean, I know this is a TV show, but yes, go and get you some birth control, girl. Because clearly, whatever you're doing now is not working. So she says she's gonna have an abortion. It's the best thing. And so Maggie was like, she understood, and she said, I'm gonna give you resources. Well, Mr. Collar went and called Jane, and he told Jane, get Maggie together. So she tells Maggie, you can't give her resources. We can't do that. Mr. Color is very conservative. And Maggie said, I know, we're grown women calling him Mr. But Maggie said, I'm willing to die on this ward. I'm not backing down. So the call was over with. They gave the woman the resources. They didn't have to bring this up anymore unless an abortion came up. And Jane had asked Maggie, would you please screen the calls where abortions don't come through? And Maggie said no. So everything is over with, and Maggie gonna get on the mic talking about, she let them know that she had an abortion, that was the right thing for her and everything. So then later on, she goes into Jane's office, and Jane is packing, and Maggie's like, man, that was quick. She thinks she got fired. And Jane said, nope, I got fired. And Maggie was like, what? And he was like, yeah, if you can't keep, Mr. Kohler said, if you can't keep your employees in line, don't worry about it. I'm going to hire somebody else who can. And Maggie was like, I'm going to talk to him, and if he doesn't listen to reason, then I'm going to quit. And Jane was like, no, don't do that. They wrapped this up too cute for me. But she was like, no, don't do that. You need to fight the good fight, get your numbers up, and then you can use that as leverage so you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. So then when Nick comes down, because they had talked earlier, and they was doing their whole, I like you, but I'm going to act like I hate you. So Nick comes down. He told her, it's a good thing you got fired. And she was like, that's all you got? And he was like, yeah, because I want you to go to the Nantucket with me. And she was like, and Jane, he was telling this to Jane, and she was like, okay. And so that was that. Um, so that when Maggie goes home and she's talking to Gary or whatever, he says he doesn't like Milo, but he realized just listening to her radio show that if he didn't hide his feelings better, he wants to support. He loves Danny, so he's got to just let that go and just love Danny and keep his feelings to himself about Milo. And that was that. And then we see Maggie go and she goes and talks to her doctor because she wants to look into her options on having a child. I don't know. I didn't like it to that. I didn't like that whole Jane thing. I'm like, Jane did nothing wrong. But yeah, it is what it is. Moving right along, we're going to go to okay, because I'm going to talk about them last. We're going to go to Eddie. So Eddie is with Anna, and he apologizes to her because he wasn't able to make it to lunch because Theo had something going on. And so he was like, I'm sorry about that. And she was like, no, no, I understand. Um, I understand, it's cool or whatever. And because Theo had his counseling session, and so Eddie, he wasn't able to make it, but he brought her some food. And then she said, you could break it up to me instead of lunch. We could do dinner, and you can do dessert, and you could spend the night and all that. And Eddie is like, okay, I'm with that. So, but then when he turns and rolls away, his face shows that he was not with that. Like, what is wrong with y'all? Y'all are adults. Tell the truth. So his face shows that he was not with it. So then we see that he goes over to Catherine's house, and Theo asks him to stay. Now Eddie knows he has plans with Anna, and so Catherine is looking like, why are you telling him you would stay? He was like, no. She was like, you don't have to stay. And he said, no, I'll work it out. I'll let Anna know. And so he gives Anna a call, and he tells her that Theo had a tough session in counseling, and he's just going to spend the night there because he needs him. And Catherine, excuse me, and Anna was just like, I feel like you deserve the world's biggest dad. No, girl, that's not what you was about to say. She was not about to say that. It was like, you feel like he never has time for you. Because how many times? Okay, I'm gonna get to that later. So then, Catherine, confronts Eddie, and she's like, "What are you doing? Like, Theo did not really need you. I could have took care of this. Why are you purposely canceling your dates with Anna?" And so he tells her that they were going to be intimate, and he's not comfortable with that. And she says, "Well, you were with me," and he was like, "Yeah, but that was different. Like, it was different. You were already she was his wife and everything." And so then they go to talking about like her and Greta and how it was different for her too. And he was like, but you already like know this. And she was like, no, you would think, but that adds more pressure. And so they're just talking about how, look at their relationship where they're now friends and they can talk about this kind of stuff. And she tells him, go to Anna and, make this up to her. Go to Anna, and because I got it here. And yeah, that was pretty much it with Catherine. That was all they showed her really on the episode. So then Eddie goes to Anna and he apologizes. He got the cheesecake, 12 different types, 12 different types. I think he had some kind of other cake. Whatever. He apologized to her and told her he was sorry. And she forgives him or whatever. And then he lets her know why he canceled because he was worried about his performance. And he says, it seems better if I just show up. Stop just popping up, because stop just popping up or whatever. But they need to work on this story writing a little bit, because how many times have we seen Eddie show up at Anna's house at the end of an episode? Like, how many times are y'all gonna do this? But anyways, she lets him in, and I guess they're gonna enjoy their dessert and everything together. All right, so that was that storyline. So then we go to um I'm gonna just go to Regina. So then we go to Regina, and she's talking to her dad, and he's telling her, go big with your stuff, and she's like, nah, I'm cool. Me and Val are cool, just being small. And he was like, no, you gotta go big and everything. And Catherine tell her the paperwork is all together for her and her dad and everything, so they can go sign. And she's like, it's above someday, and oh gosh, I don't know, because she still upset about losing her restaurant. So then later on, we see that her dad took her to Someday, and he says it's open, it's for rent. And I was thinking we could do it, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, no! Like, what are you doing? I don't want this." And she walks away. She walks away. She walks away from him, and he was just. So they talk later on, and he just tells her, "I'm sorry. I was thinking big because I wasn't there when it failed. When it all went bad. So he's just trying to make up for it. He felt guilty about that." And she said, "I know, but let's stop living in the past and live in the future." And she tells him she was upset about Someday because it was the last thing John gave her, and it failed. But we all know that restaurant failed because of COVID, because she was doing well at one point. And she said it failed, and that she said it failed, and that I don't know. She felt guilty because she didn't even want it anymore. She said, "I was so worried about overhead. I was so worried about, are we going to, be able to make it another month?" She said, "For 2 years, I wasn't sleeping." Yeah, she was stressed at one point. I mean, it was doing good, but then, COVID, I think it only had a short life where it was really doing good, because right when it started getting, going, COVID hit, and it was bad. And so she was like, it was stressful. I know, girl, because I had a storefront once, and I was like, whoo, get me out of this. But anyways, she's like, the most fun I had was when I was in the food truck, because it was about the food and everything. So then her dad later on, she's coming out of some restaurant or something. I don't know what she. But her dad pulls up, and he's like, "Regina," and he has a food truck. Now it's a raggedy looking food truck. I'm like, "Daddy, if you were gonna buy her the storefront, you could have done a little better on this food truck." But I see what he's doing. So he wanted to give her something, I guess, that wasn't gonna blow her mind about, oh my gosh, how much money we spent. So he got her this food truck. He said, I haven't made a deal on it. You can drive it and test it. And I was just thinking, you said you had a great time on this food truck, maybe, and you could take it to each location. That's how you can do it. It'll be about the food. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I love it." Regina named this food truck. Hold on, because I wrote it down. Oh my gosh, I ain't even got it. Regina named this food truck. I think it was starting fresh catering. I said that is a horrible name. That is a horrible name. But her daddy said he liked it. He said he liked it, so I was like, "Okay, girl, go with that then." So Regina named that. She gonna name it Starting Fresh Catering. And so her and her daddy are happy because they're gonna get to work together. And Val's going. I guess they're gonna bring Val in, because y'all ain't show. Y'all keep saying her name, but y'all ain't showed her in weeks. Okay. Who child? So then we go to Rome, right? So now we're going to Rome. And I don't like the way they sell Rome's character. Rome, when I see him on screen now, I can't even. I'm not gonna lie. I'll be like, oh. Because Rome is okay. So Rome is talking to Terrell about the school he went to. You remember his dad pulled strings and got him into the school, and he's telling Terrell about his experience. And one of his experience was where they made a whites only water fountain, and he was like him and one other black student there. And he went and told the dean, Mr. Dennings, and Mr. Dennings took the sign down, and he said, "Let it go. Some things you just gotta let go." And he was like, "Oh my gosh, I couldn't believe, Mr. Dennings pretty much dismissed my stuff, how I was feeling. It was just like, let it go or whatever." All right, so Rome is going back there because Dre Washington, one of the students that was there, they're going to meet and everything. So Tyrell was like, "I'll go with you," or whatever. And Ron was like, "No, this is something I got to do alone." So he goes back to school, and he has a flashback of what happened to him at the water fountain. And then he sees Dre. I know Dre from somewhere. Well, I know him from a few things, but you know how you know somebody, but you don't know, like, I don't know his real name. I just know his face, because I'm like, "Oh, you've played in this. But anyways, so he's there. And Roman's just like, "Why would you go back?" And he said, "Because I went to what did he say? He went to Stanford or something like that, and it was the same thing." He was like, "So I realized that I had to be the one to make change or whatever." And so he told Rome, I want to show your movie here because I think it would help some people. Like, it would make them see it differently. And Rome was like, oh my gosh, yes. And he said, okay, I just need to talk to the dean. Child, the dean is Mr. Dennings. And Rome is just in shock, right? So then Rome goes home to Tyrell, and he was like telling him about how they want to show his movie, and it's going to be on Friday. Excuse me. And Tyrell was like, oh my gosh, yes. And then Rome says, yeah, because I'm going to get up there and I'm going to tell them this movie was made because of your dean, a racist dean that you have, Mr. Dennings. And Rome was all excited going out the room, and Tyrell was like, what? Tyrell said, I'm not with that. I'm not with that. I'm not with it. So they're not gonna air for like 2 weeks, and that's good because I need a break. I need a break from them. I'm sorry, a million little things. I'm trying to hold tough with you, but y'all getting boring. Y'all are getting boring on a Wednesday night, and you come on at 9 o'clock too. And so I'm having to try to force myself to stay awake so I can do a video. And I'm tired. I'm tired. So y'all gonna have to pick up the storylines or whatever. But I don't know. I don't like how they're doing Rome's character. Like, and I know, child, I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, his depression is so needed in the storyline. Yes, okay, yeah, but I get it. I get that it's needed and everything, but I also like, listen. I want to look at a show and get involved with it. Either you're gonna be a mystery or you're gonna be a drama and have some drama. Like, they don't have, when you look at it, none of their storylines intertwine. Like, there's no intertwining of the storylines. That's what to me made it so good, because you was like, what? Eddie and Delilah together? She pregnant by him. When Catherine gonna fight it? Like, it was that made me want to watch it. Now it's just like, what y'all doing? But anyways, that was a million little things, guys. I will see you in 2 weeks for a new episode.